Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Hawk's Eye View. I'm Andrew Barber with my co-host Drew Shipley here, and we're excited to talk about NCAA tournament for the women and maybe a little NIT talk for the men. But let's get started with the women. They are the number 2 overall 1 seed in the women's bracket. South Carolina, the obvious number 1, the undefeated team, but Iowa getting a 1 seed for the first time in how many years, Drew? Like 30 some?
1993 got the 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
Was their last Final Four before last year?
31 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big deal. You might not think, well, what's the difference between getting a 1 seed and a 2 seed? But, we made history in the Iowa women's basketball history with this team. So that is a big deal. That's something to celebrate. And there's some benefits that come with that, although when we get into this a little more, we'll see that the committee didn't really give Iowa a lot of benefits. But for their first round game, Iowa will play on Saturday afternoon on ABC at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And they'll play the winner of a play-in game between Holy Cross and Tennessee Martin. Those two teams play at 8 o'clock tomorrow night on ESPN2. If you want to take a look at that, I think UT Martin is 16-16. Holy Cross is 20-12. I think UT Martin is slightly favored, but it's kind of a coin toss in a lot of these games between these 16 seeds. So there's 68 teams. The first 4 is happening tomorrow night tonight and tomorrow night, I believe.
Yeah, so the women's tournament's staggered by exactly 1 day.
Yep. So there's a little bit of first 4 action tonight for the women, first 4 action for the men, and we'll find out who Iowa plays tomorrow night. So
I would like to say L. Duncan called them Holly Cross on the bracket reveal. So I want to refer to them as Holly Cross for the duration of this podcast.
Holly Cross. I'll put a little respect on their name and refer to them as Holy Cross. And to be quite honest, this is my first look at Holy Cross or UT Martin. I don't really know anything about these two teams. Drew, I'm not going to spend too much time previewing a matchup between the Iowa women and Holy Cross. I feel like Iowa's going to be favored by.
Excuse me, Holly Cross?
Holly Cross. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I feel like Iowa's going to be favored pretty handily, 25 plus probably, and take care. In Iowa City, I feel like Iowa's going to take care of business. So what are some things that you're looking for from this Iowa women's team in their first game and maybe their second round game? Let's go ahead and project it out and say they're probably going to play a second round game. What could they do in these first 2 rounds that would impress you?
Impress might not be the word, Andrew. I would call it expect, right? They're the 1 seed for a reason. So I think it's fair to say that we expect things from this team now. I expect to take care of the basketball against Holly Cross or UT Martin. We've come on this podcast, or at least I have. I've been critical of turnovers, specifically from 22. This is the tournament you can't do that in, Andrew. It's a one-and-done scenario, which is why the second round kind of scares me, right? Because those Ivy League teams typically are very disciplined teams. They play smart basketball. They do not turn the ball over. I would be worried about double-digit turnovers against a team like Princeton in the round of 32 personally. So I want to see taking care of the basketball first and foremost, because that's within their control, right? We know they're going to score. We know Caitlin's going to throw up 30, but we need to see the things that they can control, which is taking care of the basketball. I would say first and foremost, that's number 1 for me.
Yeah. I think that is definitely number 1. You think it'll be Princeton then? Because I think it could go either way with Princeton or West Virginia. And did you see what the West Virginia coach had to say. He said that we want to win a game, and then we want to take out Iowa.
Yeah, I did, and it's really mainly because I have a set of friends that we tailgate with at the Commanders games. We get season tickets to the Orioles with now. That has a daughter that's graduating from West Virginia this year, and she posted that on her Facebook specifically to get a rise out of me. So I will come and say that West Virginia is not even winning their first round game, so their coach just needs to shut up. So Princeton, Iowa, round of 32, concerns turnovers. We take care of the ball. Things will fall where they may. So first 2 rounds should be okay, but like I said, primary concern or expectation is ball control.
Yeah, I say bring on West Virginia. They average 15 turnovers per game. They shoot 32% from 3 as a team per game. 70% from the free throw line, 45%, just shade under 45% as a team. They're not really a huge rebounding team, and a lot of their primary players are guards. They don't have the size of a Princeton squad. Princeton has a little bit of size on their team. It doesn't necessarily scare me because I think Hannah Stolke can use her speed as an advantage, like we've seen it a lot of times before against some of the posts in the Big Ten. We've seen her run them off the court, but it doesn't necessarily scare me, but I think it's a little bit more of there's at least a mismatch there that Princeton could exploit. I don't feel like West Virginia has the same advantages. So I say bring West Virginia on because we might roll them by 30.
I will say this, Andrew. No matter the result of that game, they will be wildly better than the Virginia men were last night.
Oh, my goodness. That was awful. That was really something. It was really, really something.
I just had to poke the bear there.
Yeah. We don't need to see Virginia basketball out there on the court in the NCAA tournament until they vastly improve. So that's really the first 2 rounds. Just looking at the bracket as a whole, who in Iowa's region do you think is the biggest threat? I think there's an obvious answer. I just want to see who you think is the biggest threat to Iowa not making the Final Four in their region.
Obviously, they're the teams that have beat Iowa most recently, right? LSU, Kansas State. Those are the obvious ones. One of them is going to be eliminated by each other in regards to UCLA, the number 2 seed in that region. So, UCLA, LSU, everybody knows who we want, right? And then you know what? I would even dark horse Sweet 16 Drake.
Yeah.
Drake women playing really good basketball. 29-5 on the season. It's there's not as much parity in the women's tournament as there is in the men's, right? Like there's typically not like a double-digit seed that makes the Final Four. Actually, in fact, I'm not sure there ever has been. Usually chalk wins the day for the women's tournament.
Yeah.
But look at Drake's Road, right? They got Colorado in the round of 68, the first round, and then the winner of Kansas State, Portland.
Yeah.
It only takes 2, and you're right there. So
right. Yeah, Colorado is a dangerous team though too. That's a team that destroyed LSU early on in the season. They had their struggles in Pac-12 basketball, and that's why they're a 5 seed. They got swept by UCLA, I believe, lost to USC. Stanford, they weren't on the same level as Stanford or USC and UCLA, and basically that's why Colorado is where they are. But yeah, they gave Iowa a little bit of fits for a half or more last year when Iowa played them on their run to the national championship. Excuse me. So, and Kansas State, yeah, they went into Iowa City and beat Iowa. So, And we got them back on a neutral court, and we would play them again on a neutral court. But it's not, you don't really want to see one team 3 times. And then UCLA, it's kind of the unknown. They have Lauren Betts, who's a center that Iowa actually explored in the transfer portal, but she ultimately chose UCLA. This Iowa team would be rolling if they had Lauren Betts because she's the star of the UCLA squad and the reason why they're a number 2 overall seed. So I wish that things could be different, that we had Lauren Betts on this team because this team would just be dominant. But yeah, and then you have LSU, who was hyped up this season as a dream team, an all-star team, and it hasn't worked out very well. But who knows? Maybe they figure it out at the right time. And then my point is that these teams may not be properly seeded, the 2, 3, 4, 5. I think, UCLA was more in a conversation for a 1 seed. I feel like Colorado was more of a 4 seed and a 5 seed, right?
Yeah, Andrew.
And is probably a little higher than 4 seed in my mind. So it's like they loaded up Iowa's region with a lot of good teams.
And I can't remember the name of the ladies, what the lady's name was of the chair of the women's bracket. But I felt like I was talked down to a little bit about when they asked the question, when Holly Rowe asked the question, why is Iowa's bracket so daunting? Why did this happen? And she responded with, well, I would like to remind everybody that, the same conferences can't be in the same region if they have a top 4 seed. I don't care, man, Andrew. Like, if you're seeding these teams 1 through 68, play them as they are. I don't care if it's UCLA, Colorado. Like, I don't care. If those are the seeds, those are the seeds. You played your conference tournament. You played them twice, if not 3 times in the conference. Eliminate yourselves. That's why baseball plays divisional rounds. So that way there's not like an all AL East, ALCS. There's not an all NL Central, NLCS. They eliminate themselves through the rounds. They got to play each other eventually at some point. So I don't like those like built-in rules or some shit that they can't put teams in the same conference in the same bracket because they're top 4 seed. I don't buy that.
Right. And you can't convince me that some of the seeding processes, that'd be a good storyline. Let's do that. Right? Because you've got LSU potentially playing Louisville in the second round. So Haley Van Lith versus her old team and coach.
And she's been chirping too.
Right. And yeah. And then you've got a Creighton team who didn't they win the Big East?
Yep.
And they're a 7 seed?
Yeah, Big East women. I mean,
oh, yeah, but
I mean the Big East men only had 3, so
right, but they have UConn. That's besides the point. So, you know what I'm saying. It's you're
missing another big one too. You're missing Nebraska, Texas A&M.
No, I was going to go there.
Well, okay,
it's there because
that's on both sides.
Yeah, you can't tell me they didn't coordinate that. I feel like the men's committee and the women's committee said, you know what would make Trev Albert's life awesome? If we put Nebraska and A&M men and women against each other in the NCAA tournament, which, by the way, Nebraska, that might be the sneakiest 6 seed I've seen in a women's tournament.
Yeah.
I don't think that the 3 seed – I would much rather have Nebraska pitted up against LSU instead of Louisville. A second-round game between Nebraska and LSU, I'm fully convinced Nebraska could beat LSU.
I think so too, Andrew. I think a lot because there's so many egos on that LSU team now when you add Haley Van Lith into this deal between Kim Mulkey. Like, it kind of reminds me of like the 2020 Women's World Cup team that didn't even win the bronze medal, right? Like, too many personalities, too many clashes. I don't think they can put it together for 6 games. I don't, and I think you might be right. I think Nebraska would be a terrible matchup for LSU. They beat them up. It depends on how the referee is gonna call the game, but Nebraska will beat them up inside. Angel Reese, well, that whole Kim Mulkey comment about I wish that girl would have picked on Angel Reese though, wouldn't have pushed her around. But well, you know what? Pretty sure Nebraska would.
Yeah.
Legally, and
Right.
she's not gonna like it. So give me that matchup. That would be sweet.
Yeah. Quick little mention of the Iowa State women. I know they're playing Maryland, so that hits close to home for you.
Woo! Go Terps!
Hey, the Terps had a big week at the Big Ten tournament. I feel like their win over Ohio State got them solidly in rather than in a play-in spot or maybe even leaning out. So good job for the Terps sneaking in as a 10 seed. That'll be one that we can keep our eye on. I feel like Iowa State might win that, but
don't forget, Andrew, when the Hawkeyes came out here to College Park, they let Iowa at the under 5 timeout in the fourth quarter. So
that's true.
They are capable of
true
of giving teams some run. So
very, very talented Maryland team, maybe a sneaky 10 seed there.
Yep.
Too. Yeah, I'll be honest. I've filled out my bracket. I've got Iowa making it out of their region. I'm not gonna hold any punches. I don't see anything that's gonna hold me back from that. I know the competition is tough, but also the competition has to play us. And in their minds, they may be thinking, oh shoot, we have to play Caitlin Clark, who might be on a mission, right? She knows it's her last go around. There's no ambiguity about that. And so she might be on a mission, and we might see her have an even better run than she had last year, which is unfathomable, but it's possible.
That's a good way to put it, Andrew. Unfathomable, but possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anything is possible.
With her, yes.
I desperately want to see an Iowa USC final. I want to see Juju Watkins and Caitlin Clark.
Oh, really?
That's what I want to see.
My dream is the rematch against an undefeated South Carolina.
I mean, either way, if they make it there, I'll be thrilled. I don't give a damn who they're playing, but
right.
I kind of want to see the passing of the torch. I think I want to see if Juju Watkins is the real deal that everybody's saying she is.
True. What do we know about Molly Davis? I think I heard a comment from Lisa Bluter that said she hoped she would be further along by now, but do we know if she's coming back, if we're going to get her back at any point?
I feel like I haven't done my due diligence, Andrew. You did a women's bracket and filled it out. I didn't look up injury reports. I will say this: Iowa should win comfortably without Molly Davis for this week.
Right.
So realistically, you have another week and a half of rehab and therapy to see where she's at that point. And 7 to 10 days that can work wonders sometimes. So, we'll see. I mean, I feel like the backups, I feel like the role players have stepped in very nicely for the Hawkeyes. So, I'm not seeing a big drop off or necessity until maybe Sweet 16 time. So,
right.
Why risk it? Although then again, this is her last run, right? So I don't know. What do you risk? What do you don't? But you're not going to risk it at the expense of your entire team in a one and done situation. So I think you give her that 10-day span from here on and reevaluate. But no, I don't know anything additional about her. So I mean, they'll be ready to go.
Yeah. You called out role players that have stepped up. I think the big one is Sydney Fulter. She had an awesome Big Ten tournament. There's one game there. I think it was the semifinal game. She had a near triple-double. She almost had a triple-double going and buried threes. That was something that I hadn't seen from a Fulter, was consistently hitting a three-point shot all year. So if that's going to suddenly be there for the NCAA tournament, that just adds a different element too, because she's not really known as a shooter. Teams kind of dare her to shoot. So if she's going to make them, she's scrappy, you know, she gets going to the basket too. She can go mix it up inside a little bit. She's kind of like she's kind of doing her McKenna Warnock thing, more or less.
Wasn't she actually the Big Ten tournament player of the tournament? Wasn't she the MVP?
Could be.
Because Caitlin Clark did not have her best games there in that 3-game stretch. I'm pretty sure she was named the. I'm gonna have to fact check that. I'm pretty sure she was named player of the tournament.
Okay, well, go ahead and fact check that. Let me know.
Yeah.
You're right though, and Iowa still found a way to win a Big Ten tournament title for the 3rd time in a row with Caitlin Clark not shooting spectacularly well. She did what she had to, though. It was kind of that in that Big Ten championship. It was kind of that Jordan inevitability that we've talked about with Caitlin Clark before. It's like maybe she didn't have the best shooting night, but then she came through when it mattered and like just lifted her team when you thought it couldn't be done. And Kate Martin did too. And Gabby Marshall was good on defense as well. And that's another storyline for Iowa is Gabby has found her shot a little bit in March. And if that continues, we saw that last year in March. So if you get Gabby and Sydney Fulter and, you know, Kate Martin doing her thing at the same time and Caitlin Clark can, you know, shoot like she has all season, that's really the key for Iowa is that's really what's going to carry them through to those later rounds is will they shoot the ball like they have in the past? I mean, they went on a hot shooting streak last year in last year's NCAA tournament. So will that continue? That's really the kind of the question.
Yeah, I mean, so it does kind of look like Gabby Marshall's hitch. Like I previously said, she had a hitch in her shoulder upon release. I feel like it's kind of gone away, honestly. So I mean, she is making him at a more outstanding clip. Gabby Marshall, that David Eichholt likes to refer to her as. Yeah, man. I mean, if she's putting up 10, 12 points a game, I think that's good enough. Like, I think that will be enough. I mean, yeah, all the role players. I can't find the stat. I can't find the all tournament team to save my life. That's okay. That's silly, but it was probably Caitlin Clark. But I swear to God, I saw her. She might have been all tournament team, maybe.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd like to see something that I'd like to see in these first 2 games as well is maybe there'll be a little bit of time to get Taylor McCabe some confidence. She's definitely a shooter. She's going to play a big role next year, I think. When Caitlin Clark leaves, I think Taylor McCabe is going to be huge for next year's Iowa women's team. So I'd like to see her get going. You know, in the event that Molly Davis can't return for whatever reason, you know, the injury lingers and she can't return, then I think we're going to need Taylor McCabe to step up at some point. And you kind of need that if you're going to make a run to a national championship. You need someone unexpected sometimes to step up and have a game out of nowhere. Yeah. You know, I mean, the usual suspects got to do their thing too, but then you sometimes just need a performance from someone random. Kind of like that LSU girl who went off against us in the national championship. I can't even remember her name. I don't even know if she plays anymore or what she's doing now or what's going on. But she just like came off the bench, was like a 10% 3-point shooter and went nuts.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, I'm with you. I think it's gonna be one of the bigs though, Andrew, and it's not gonna like Hannah Stolke will get hers, but I think you're gonna see like an Addie O'Grady like 14 and 8 in 15 minutes or something. Like, I don't know why teams that can't handle the bigs. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is West Virginia. I think we'll beat them up.
Right. And we're gonna need O'Grady against like Kansas State. And if we play UCLA or LSU, either one of those two, we're gonna need O'Grady in that scenario pretty big time.
Yeah.
We need O'Grady to do her best rebounding against Angel Reese or Lauren Betts.
For sure.
So, and then beyond that, you know, thinking Final Four, it's what can she do against the Leah Edwards of UConn if UConn's there, or Cameron Brink or Camila Cardoso? Like, we're going to need O'Grady. Like, Stokey can't take on that responsibility for long stretches.
It's kind of weird to me, Andrew, how like Connecticut's taken a back burner like this last 5 or 6 years. Like, like it was kind of 1A and 1B. It was UConn and Iowa because it was Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark. And then Paige Beckers' injuries just kind of lost sight of UConn as a team completely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's talking about them, and that scares me, honestly, because I mean they have one of the top coaches of all time in Gino Auriemma. So I mean anything can happen in the one game scenarios, but like I said, I want Iowa USC, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'll tell you my pre-tournament Final Four for the women right now. It's South Carolina versus Stanford, Iowa versus UConn. So you're going to have, Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers, the Final Four, and Brink versus Cardoso on the other side. So a lot of star power.
Yeah.
A 1 versus a 2, and a 1 versus a 3.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
I can't argue with that.
I think that would be the best matchup for women's basketball, personally.
Probably.
Maybe Juju Watkins, if USC can somehow get there instead of UConn. I do have UConn taking out USC.
Okay. So USC is on our side. I'm sorry, on our side. So it would be a Final Four matchup.
Right. It would be a Final Four matchup if we play UConn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring it. Let's do it. Let's play them all, Andrew. Why not?
I love it. And hey, UConn's getting a little bit hot at the right time. I mean, they rolled through. Actually, they won the Big East. What am I talking about with Creighton? UConn won the Big East.
Oh, duh.
So
stat correction.
Yeah, we can't have one thing. We can't have the UConn men and the UConn women taking home championships in the same year. We can't go back to that.
Yeah, they've done that before.
That happened too much in the 90s and early 2000s. We can't go back to that.
Damn you, Kimba Walker.
Yeah. I think right now is a good time to go ahead and hear from our sponsors at Revelton and Wintrust. So we will come back and talk NIT.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's...
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors from Revelton. We appreciate you. Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. We appreciate you as well. NIT talk. The Iowa men did it. We're in the Sweet 16, baby. For the fourth time in Fran McCaffrey's reign, we are in the Sweet 16 of the NIT. I have to call it the Sweet 16 just because I have to troll everybody. We beat Kansas State, which I think a lot of people in this state are grateful for, even if you're not Hawkeye fans. I know that Jerome Tang is not a very well-liked person here in this state. So we did our thing. Peyton Sandfort came out on absolute fire, had 17 points in the first 7 minutes and 30 seconds, and ended up with 20 plus, and he was really feeling it.
30 piece.
30 piece.
30 and 12.
Nice. Yep. I don't know how closely NBA scouts pay attention to the NIT, but you got to think that maybe performances like that, if he keeps showing out, that might mean something. I know he's probably a second round pick. That's where he's been projected a lot. I've seen him anywhere as high as 35, as low as 50 something, right? So there's a lot of variance in there, but most likely a second round pick, which is good. I don't know. He's going to have a decision to make.
I mean, I didn't think when AJ Green out of UNI announced he was going to the draft, I did not think it was a wise move. He had a year of eligibility left to come back to a UNI team that had I believe just lost to Drake in the MVC final. Would have came back on a team with Bowen Bourne as a sophomore. A team that would have gave Drake a run again, a couple of years ago. And AJ Green's carved out a role for him on the full-time NBA roster, or the full-time, not a two-way contract like Luka Garza, because he can shoot. The thing about Peyton Sandfort is he can shoot with you in his face, with anybody in his face. His trigger is so fast. Unlike I always like making fun of this person in general, George Niang. How that guy has ever got a shot up without it being blocked is beyond me, because his motion is so slow to the top. Like how he doesn't get blocked every single time, I don't know. But Peyton Sandfort is the opposite of that. Anywhere, anytime, launch, and not necessarily Jordan Bohannon percentage numbers, but I mean he can add them up pretty quick, spurts.
Yeah. There was another smooth shooting white guy from Iowa that was about 6'7", 6'8", and I hate throwing this name out here for Peyton Sandfort, and I think you know the name I'm about to throw out, and the name is Korver. But you mentioned release, and that's what brought me to Kyle Korver. That was something that Kyle really perfected in the NBA, was he quickened his release. Well, Sandfort's already got that quick release and can make the contested shots like we saw last night. I'm not saying that Peyton Sandfort's going to be Kyle Korver in the NBA, but what you brought up about the release for Sandfort is what I'm trying to equate to. He's got that Korver-like release. Maybe not the accuracy, not going to stick, but Kyle Korver was a second-round pick too. And
he was around for like 18 years on 12 different teams, right? Or something like that, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It made probably 60, 70 million in that time.
And top 5 all-time in three-pointers made, and made an all-star team, and
And Peyton Sandfort is more aggressive too, Andrew. Like we're talking like
right.
he can board too, 6'7", 6'8". He's got the frame to board.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of it. Like Korver was just a shooter, man. Like, right?
Shooting guard, small forward, yeah.
He was a shooter. Mm-hmm. Peyton Sandfort is a two-way, I can't say two-way player. Two-tool player. Like, I'm in baseball mode right now, right? So, like, you have 5-tool player. He can score and he can rebound. And I think that makes him more valuable in general, that he can do both. But, man, like, then again, Luka Garza, he can shoot from anywhere on the floor. He rebounds, and now he's in the league because Karl Anthony Towns is out, and now he's getting his run.
Yeah, hopefully Peyton Sandfort doesn't get traded for $20,000 in a copier. Kyle Korver got drafted by the Nets and then traded to the Sixers for $20,000 and an office fax machine / copier.
That sounds like. This sounds like Moneyball, where Billy Bean trades for Ricardo Rincon, and the money to stock his pop machine for 3 years.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was. And that's how Kyle Korver ended up playing with Allen Iverson for a few years. So
It could have been worse.
But yeah, and he was like picked in the 50s, right? Where Sanford might go.
Yeah.
So, no guaranteed contracts in the second round, but you have a chance. So, and, we've talked about this before, but it's a really weak draft class. So this might be Peyton's time to go, even if he doesn't really want to. Fran might sit him down. Like we saw with Cooper DeJean in football. It's not obviously the same level, but it's going to be the same principle. Or Fran might say, you want to come back, but this is probably your time to go. So,
right. Yeah.
He's playing like it might be his last run. He's kind of doing his Matt Gatens thing in the NIT. I want to highlight Ben Krikke as well. He had a really bad first half, 3 points and 3 rebounds, and then went off for 21 points and 9 rebounds in the second half. And without that type of performance, I don't think Iowa wins that basketball game because they had a really ugly start to the second half. You and I were talking during the game, Drew. Basically, K-State came out and made a run. It was like the first half gains that Iowa had didn't really matter because K-State made a run, but Iowa punched back. Yeah. So that was good to see that Iowa lost the momentum and regained it because we hadn't seen that all the time this season. A lot of times when Iowa lost the momentum, they just would never be able to get it back. But I think they found a way. They dug deep, and I think Sanford and Krikke really did their thing. And I thought Freeman played decent too. I think Perkins played an okay game, maybe not his best game, but Dembele, I feel like Dembele played some nice minutes too.
I think I heard earlier today, Andrew, somebody speculating that Tony Perkins might not be 100% healthy.
He's not.
And that's concerning. Granted, it's an NIT run, Andrew, so
right.
And probably his last year, so he's gonna let it all hang out. An NIT loss here in a couple days isn't gonna ruin his life. So,
right.
We'll probably get the whole tank of gas, right? But yeah, I mean, it's better than losing, I guess, right? Like like Murph and Andy have been saying and joking about, it was like it's hard to pretend to care about the NIT, and that people are making excuses that it's okay to have a rebuilding year every once in a while. And I'm on the side of it is year 14. I don't think it is okay at this point. Like, you've set your culture, you have the people that you want to try to recruit, that you have your MO, right? You have your guys, but clearly your guys don't play defense in the 14-year span. Scoring 75 points a game would win you 9 out of 10 games anywhere else. Literally anywhere else. But it gets us to 500 ball in Big Ten play. I don't know if needs to be a change of philosophy. Somebody brought in, I thought I had heard somebody talk about bringing someone into the staff specifically for the defensive side. I can't remember the name. I don't know if you remember, Andrew, seen any names.
No, I can't remember the name either, but I would be in favor of that. I think I've said that before on the show when we did the season preview multiple times through the season. I think, Fran's coming back for another year. I think that's going to happen.
I'm still not sold on that. I'm holding true to my guns on that one, Andrew.
Okay. Well, I think he's coming back for another year. And, I would be in favor of a staff shakeup. It's like the opposite of football. We've talked about this before. Right? If Fran could get an assistant that commits to defense and gets the guys to buy into defense, the defensive side of the ball, I'd sacrifice 3 or 4 points per game to play better defense, at least. I'd sacrifice some of the offensive capabilities if that's a concern, that playing more aggressive defense is going to take away from the scoring. I'm for it.
Yeah, and I think it was Sherman that was being rumored to be replaced. He's getting to retirement age. In fact, I think he's older than Fran.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's who they were talking about being replaced on the staff with a defensive mind.
All right, bring in Dean Oliver. Let's go. Let's do this.
Sure, why not?
Yep. Okay. I don't know who it is, but yeah, bring in somebody defensively and yeah. But our next matchup, we will play at Utah. I believe Utah beat UC Irvine, so we'll play at Utah on I think Saturday. I don't think it's out yet where the TV time is, TV channel, all that stuff.
Let's take a look.
I've looked on ESPN. It's not out there.
Can't find it.
If you have other sites, it's not out there.
All right.
Utah is a team that I think was kind of maybe on the NCAA bubble, but played themselves out of it, kind of like Iowa did. I know that they have a little bit of a bigger lineup. They have an NBA prospect of their own in Brandon Carlson, center. He put up 21 and 11 with 5 blocks against UC Irvine. He's a 6'10", 6'11 dude who can stretch the floor a little bit, so he can go inside, outside on you. And what I read about Utah is that they play a little bit of a bigger lineup. They have a 6'6" guard, Gabe Madsen. They have Bajema, Davon Smith, who's their point guard. He's 6 foot. Yeah, they can play a little bit bigger lineups, and that might be something that might be tough for this Iowa team because we're a little bit undersized. We're going to need a good Cricky game again. Cricky's going to have to battle it out against some bigger posts in that Utah game and going to have to come through for us. So
I'm going to take your word for it, Andrew. I have nothing to add to the Utah Utes roster.
Yeah. I've watched some Utah games this year. That's how deep I am to college basketball. I stay up and watch Utah games.
God bless you. And Bill Walton wasn't even on the call for Pac-12 After Dark. So
right. Well, that's actually better. I'm not. When Bill Walton
you're not a Bill Walton fan?
If my favorite team was playing and Bill Walton's the announcer, I'd be so annoyed because he talks about anything but basketball. You might get
that's why it's so funny because it's not our team, so I'll watch the shit out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you get like an hour rant about hiking in the woods next to the Grateful Dead or something like that. Like I have no clue.
Good for him, man.
And also, like Bill Walton's doing the games from home. He's not even there, so 100% that he's on some sort of drugs.
Yep.
I don't know what drugs it is, but for 100% a fact. But yeah, I can't stand that. I need some actual analysis if you're going to actually be talking on TV.
Yeah, understood.
So, did we want to give some quick predictions? I feel like we got it out there. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Iowa women to win their first 2 rounds. I think they'll play both their first 2 games before we come back next week. So hopefully we're back here next Thursday talking about Sweet 16 stuff and getting ready for Sweet 16. And hopefully we're talking about the Iowa men continuing their NIT run, and they're getting a little bit closer to Hinkle Fieldhouse. That's the location of the NIT Final Four now, is Hinkle Fieldhouse instead of Madison Square. So hopefully.
So educate me, Andrew. Hinkle Fieldhouse is where Butler plays now, but where the Hoosiers was set, right?
Yeah, the movie Hoosiers. That's where the Indiana State basketball tournament used to be played every year, was at Hinkle Fieldhouse. It holds a lot of history.
Yeah. I kind of like that move. I mean, I like the historic MSG, but I like it moving. That's okay.
Yeah. So
to add on to your predictions, Andrew, I think there's a first half scare against Princeton in the round of 32 that, eventually subsides, like a 12, 15-point win, probably round of 32. So first half scare, they get through the first weekend. The Iowa men, I think they beat Utah too. I think they go like on a Final Four NIT run. I wish the NIT was played for something, Andrew. Like put the NIT winner as a 16 seed. Let this NIT thing play out for a week and a half, and then whoever's the winner, plays the number one seed. I don't know.
If they expand the NCAA tournament, there probably won't be an NIT going forward. So,
I mean, look at all the teams that turned it down, right?
Right. If they expand it to 96 or whatever it is they're thinking about, then there won't be an NIT, and Iowa would just be in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Yep.
So, with that being said, I think Iowa also beats Utah, and I don't have an NIT bracket handy here. I don't know who Iowa could potentially play after Utah, so I'll have to do some research on that. But
is it the winner of is it Villanova's the one seed on that bracket? I can't remember either. I'm not going to sit here and speculate and guess. That's terrible podcasting.
Yeah, neither am I. It's fine. It's fine. We're beating Utah. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters, 100%.
All right. Well, it's been a good night. Love talking Hawks. Last thing, Drew, go ahead.
There's a couple of things, Andrew, because I wanted to do it in the last podcast, but we didn't get the shout out. NCAA Wrestling National Tournament is this week as well. So I just wanted to highlight, we do have 9 wrestlers going to nationals. First time, and again, this is speculation. It might be the first time Iowa's never had a number 1 seed at a weight class.
Ooh.
In fact, they have 2 number 3 seeds is the highest seeds that they have. Drake Ayala at 125, Real Woods at 141, both 3 seeds. And then, so, I mean, if we're looking, I think we finished 5th in the Big Tens, and that's awful. I mean, just one finalist in the Big Ten, Zach Glazier, I believe. And he only had to face 3-time national champion, All-American Aaron Brooks from Penn State. So you can imagine how that went. Did not go well. Granted, he is a 7 seed as well. So I would say instead of predicting national champions, I'll just predict All-Americans, right? And those are those that make the podium, Andrew. I think you're talking Drake Ayala at 125, 3 seed. Talking to Real Woods, 141, 3 seed. You're looking at Michael Caliendo at 165. He's the 6th seed. Patrick Kennedy, I think he's got an outside shot. He wrestled really well until late. He's a 12 seed. And then Zach Glazier, like I said, is 7 seed in his bracket at 197. So, I mean, we're looking at 5 potential All-Americans. I don't project any finalists, unfortunately, in this iteration. And I know, Andrew, you don't dig into wrestling very much, but at one point in time, as Tom Brands questioned as the future leader of the wrestling program, I mean, we do have that one national title. Was that the COVID year even? Is that why we got it? I don't know, probably. We've had one national title in the last 15 years.
Yeah, I think those questions are probably going to start coming this offseason, right? And especially with all of the other stuff going on with like the gambling and the Ferrari stuff. I hate to even bring up the name because like I know the stigma that name has. I don't dive too deep, but I've read some stuff about, the whole AJ Ferrari thing and
their whole family's fucked up, Andrew.
I'll let you go, but it seems like we went all in and maybe like sold our soul a little bit to try and get back with Penn State, and it's like you can't.
I think we only have one signed technically. I think we have the middle brother technically signed on to Iowa. AJ Ferrari, I think, has legal implications he needs to figure out first.
Yeah, I would say.
What's the other name? Joey? Is Joey the youngest? I can't remember.
Angelo
is the one that's signed. Anyway, That is a whole hot mess, and deal with the devil type situation, I think, as well, Andrew.
Yes.
I do want to say on a nicer note here, the Iowa baseball team's won 4 in a row.
Let's go.
And they've scored like 64 runs in doing so.
Let's get back on that right track.
To be fair, 25 of them were against Grandview Tuesday night, last night.
That's fine. That counts. We'll count
But
it.
and the 3 previous games was a sweep over, powerhouse Western Illinois. So
Hey,
you got to start somewhere, man. They're 11-9 overall going into Big Ten play. I believe they have a matchup against St. Thomas. No, they're going into Big Ten play this weekend. I'm sorry, at Purdue. I don't know anything about Big Ten baseball thus far, honestly. I know Iowa was the only preseason top 25 team. So, perennially, it's usually like teams like Michigan and Indiana that are there, like hovering the top 25 and like regional host sites when it comes to their bracket reveal.
Yep.
Iowa's just going to have to win series at this point on. They have to win 2 out of 3 every single series because you got really behind the 8 ball with your net ranking. Basically, it's BPI, I think, in baseball, with losing all those critical games that they led by multiple runs down in Jacksonville against top 20 teams. Even if you win one of those, you're in pretty good shape. But to lose all 3 of them, having multiple run leads, they're behind the 8 ball. They got to win every series from here on, I think. So, but they have won 4 straight, and they've scored 60 some odd runs in doing so. So I think they're on the up and up. I think they might get a sweep against Purdue. They do have pitching problems as far as throwing strikes, so that's been a problem. Not necessarily Brody Brecht, but Marcus Morgan, who's supposed to be our number 2 guy. Lots of walks, wild pitches. Got to cut down on those, man. So some of those things don't work out overnight. It's been kind of a thing proven over time this season. So we'll see if they can right the ship. But 11-9 overall, and they go into Big Ten play. So that's all I have for that.
Awesome. Love the update. Still got a goal to make it to a baseball game. Hope to make it there someday.
There you go.
Appreciate the updates for wrestling and baseball.
No problem.
Anything else before we close it out? Call it a night?
I don't think so, man. I'm ready for some den.
All right, let's go. All right. As always, thank you everyone for listening. Find us wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We're live there. So we'll see you back next Thursday around 6 p.m. And go Hawks.
Go Hawks.